If you've been through hell and back, if your past is darker than most people's nightmares, if you've felt abandoned, broken, and left for dead, then this message is specifically for you. You're not cursed, you're not being punished, and you're definitely not a victim. You're one of the chosen ones, and your dark past was actually the universe preparing you for a future so bright it would have blinded you without that preparation. Before we dive deep, hit that subscribe button for Attraction Magnet, smash the like button, and drop a comment telling me one thing you've overcome. Because trust me, you're gonna want every single piece of wisdom we drop on this channel. Let's get into it. Listen, there's something profound happening in your life that most people will never understand. And it's time someone told you the truth about it. Your dark past, those moments you've tried to forget, those experiences that haunt you at 3 in the morning, those chapters of your life you wish you could rip out and burn. They weren't mistakes. They weren't punishments from some cruel universe, and they definitely weren't accidents. Neville Goddard once said that everything in your reality is pushed out from your consciousness. But here's the deeper truth he was pointing to. Sometimes the universe orchestrates darkness not to destroy you, but to prepare you for a level of light that would have been impossible without that contrast. You've been chosen for something bigger, and your past was the forge where your future was being shaped. Think about it this way. When a diamond is formed, it doesn't happen in comfortable conditions with soft music playing in the background. It happens under crushing pressure, in complete darkness, deep beneath the Earth's surface where nothing else can survive. The universe doesn't apologize for the pressure because it knows what it's creating. Your traumas, your betrayals, your losses, your moments of absolute despair, they were all pressure points. And I'm not saying this to romanticize pain or make suffering sound pretty, because it's not. What I'm saying is that chosen ones don't get chosen because they had it easy. They get chosen precisely because they can withstand what others can't. Every single person who's ever done something remarkable in this world, from Buddha to Nelson Mandela, went through their own version of darkness first. Here's where most people miss the point entirely, and this is crucial. They spend their whole lives running from their past, trying to bury it, medicate it, or pretend it never happened. But that's like having a chest full of gold and treating it like trash because it's covered in dirt. Florence Scovel Shinn taught that the game of life is a game of boomerangs, and your thoughts and experiences always come back to you, but not as punishment, as opportunity. Your dark past isn't something you need to escape from, it's something you need to integrate, understand, and ultimately transform into your greatest asset. Because here's the thing nobody tells you. The depth of your darkness directly correlates to the height of your light. You know what's wild? Most chosen ones spend years feeling like something's fundamentally wrong with them, like they're misfits who just can't seem to fit into the normal world no matter how hard they try. But that feeling of being different, that sensation of not belonging, that's not a bug, it's a feature. Joseph Murphy talked about the subconscious mind being the connecting link between the individual and the infinite, and chosen ones have a more direct, more raw connection to that infinite intelligence. That's why you've always felt things more deeply than others, why you've experienced higher highs and lower lows, why your life has been a roller coaster while others seem to coast on flat roads. The universe doesn't choose comfortable people for extraordinary missions. It chooses those who've been stretched, broken, and rebuilt. There are specific signs that mark you as one of the chosen, and I'm gonna lay them out because you need to recognize yourself in this mirror. First, you've been through repeated cycles of death and rebirth. Not literal death, but experiences where your old self completely died and you had to rebuild from scratch. Maybe it was a devastating breakup, a financial collapse, a health crisis, or a betrayal that shattered everything you believed about the world. Second, You've always felt like you're meant for something more, even when you couldn't articulate what that more was. It's like there's this inner knowing, this pull toward a destiny you can't quite see but you know is there. Third, you've noticed that your worst experiences eventually led to your greatest breakthroughs, even if it took years to connect the dots. That's not coincidence. That's the universe's curriculum for chosen ones. Here's the part that's going to blow your mind. The reason your past was so dark is directly proportional to how bright your future needs to be. Wallace Wattles wrote in The Science of Getting Rich that getting rich is the result of doing things in a certain way. But he was really talking about consciousness. Chosen ones don't get average pasts because they're not being prepared for average futures. You've been equipped with depth, empathy, resilience, and wisdom that can only come from walking through fire. While others were living comfortable lives, learning comfortable lessons, you were in the trenches, learning the kind of wisdom that changes lives. Not just yours, but everyone you'll eventually touch. And that's exactly what's coming next in your journey. Pain isn't random, and it's definitely not meaningless. It's the universe's most powerful tool for transformation, and chosen ones get hit with it harder than most because they're being prepared for something most people can't even imagine. Esther Hicks, channeling Abraham, talks about contrast being essential for expansion, and your pain has been the ultimate contrast. Every tear you've cried, every night you couldn't sleep, every moment you thought you couldn't go on, those weren't signs of weakness. They were the refining process. Think of gold being purified. You've got to burn away all the impurities at extremely high temperatures before you get that pure, valuable metal. Your pain has been burning away everything that wasn't authentically you. The false beliefs, the toxic patterns, the people who were never meant to stay, the versions of yourself that needed to die so the real you could emerge. Here's what most people don't get about suffering. It's not about the pain itself, it's about what the pain reveals and what it removes. When everything's going smoothly, you can hide behind masks, play roles, and pretend to be someone you're not. But when life strips everything away, your money, your relationships, your health, your reputation, you're left with nothing but your raw, authentic self. That's terrifying for most people, but for chosen ones, that's liberation. You've been forced to meet yourself at your absolute worst, and you survived it. You've seen the darkest parts of your own soul, and you didn't run away screaming. That kind of self-knowledge, that level of self-acceptance, is what gives you the power to manifest anything you want in your future. The universe doesn't waste pain on people who won't use it for transformation. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "Bad times have a scientific value. These are occasions a good learner would not miss." Your suffering wasn't punishment, it was education. The kind you can't get from books or motivational videos. You've earned a PhD in resilience, a master's degree in survival, and a doctorate in rising from ashes. While others are still learning basic lessons about life, you've already graduated from the advanced course. And here's the beautiful paradox. The very experiences that almost destroyed you are now the foundation of your unshakable strength. Alchemy isn't just some medieval fantasy about turning lead into gold. It's a metaphor for the spiritual transformation that happens when you take your darkest experiences and transmute them into your greatest power. Carl Jung understood this deeply when he talked about integrating the shadow self, and that's exactly what you're doing right now. Every traumatic experience, every painful memory, every moment of darkness you've lived through contains raw energy. And energy can't be destroyed. It can only be transformed. The question isn't whether you have power from your past. The question is whether you're going to let that power work against you or for you. Chosen ones learn to take the exact same experiences that broke them and use them as fuel for their ascension. Think about some of the most influential people in history, and you'll see this pattern everywhere. Oprah was abused as a child, but she transmuted that pain into empathy that connects with millions. Jim Carrey was homeless as a teenager, living in a van, and he used that desperation to fuel his drive for success. J.K. Rowling was a broke single mother dealing with depression, and she channeled that darkness into creating a magical world that's inspired generations. See, these people didn't succeed despite their dark pasts. They succeeded because of them. Their suffering gave them depth, authenticity, and a message that couldn't be ignored. You've got that same raw material in your life right now, sitting there waiting to be transformed. The transformation process isn't comfortable, and nobody's going to sugarcoat that for you. Neville Goddard taught that you must die to your old state before you can be born into your new one, and that death process feels real. You've got to stop identifying as a victim. Stop telling the old story. Stop letting your past define your present. Instead, you look at every painful experience and ask, what did this teach me? What strength did this build? How can I use this to help others? When you shift from, why did this happen to me, to, what can I do with this, to you're performing alchemy. You're taking the lead of your suffering and turning it into the gold of wisdom. And that's when your entire reality starts shifting. Here's something nobody talks about, but everybody needs to understand. When you start transforming your darkness into light, when you begin rising from your past, society's gonna push back hard. It's not personal, but it's definitely real. Most people are comfortable with you staying broken because your brokenness confirms their worldview that change is impossible, that the past determines the future, that people don't really transform. When you prove that wrong by actually transforming, you become a living threat to their excuses. You're walking evidence that their limitations are self-imposed, and that makes them deeply uncomfortable. Wayne Dyer used to say, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. But he should have added that when you change, the people around you will try to change you back. Your old friends might start calling you different or changed, like it's an insult. Your family might bring up your past mistakes every time you start moving forward, like they're trying to remind you of your place. Co-workers might sabotage your progress because your growth highlights their stagnation. This isn't conspiracy theory stuff. This is just basic human psychology. People resist change, especially in others, because change disrupts the status quo. They knew how to interact with the broken version of you. They understood that dynamic. And now you're rewriting the script without their permission. That's threatening. But here's what you need to understand. Their resistance is actually confirmation that your transformation is real and powerful. The chosen ones throughout history have always faced this same resistance. Jesus was crucified, Socrates was forced to drink poison, Gandhi was assassinated, all because they represented change that threatened the existing power structures. Now, I'm not saying you're going to face that level of opposition, but the principle is the same. Your transformation is revolutionary, and revolutions always meet resistance. The key is understanding that their fear is not your problem to fix. You're not responsible for making others comfortable with your growth. As Marianne Williamson wrote, your playing small does not serve the world. When people tell you to stay in your place, to stop changing, to remember where you came from, that's when you know you're on the right path. There's a reason why every major spiritual tradition talks about the dark night of the soul. It's because true spiritual awakening rarely happens when everything's going great. Eckhart Tolle had his awakening in the middle of a suicidal depression. Byron Katie found enlightenment on the floor of a halfway house. The Buddha had to leave his palace and witness suffering before he found enlightenment. Your darkest moments weren't just pain. They were invitations to wake up from the illusion, to see beyond the material world, to connect with something greater than your circumstances. Most people live their entire lives asleep, going through the motions, never questioning the nature of reality. You didn't get that luxury because you were being groomed for a different kind of life. When everything falls apart, when your carefully constructed world collapses, you're forced to confront the biggest questions. Who am I beyond my circumstances? What's the point of all this? Is there something more? These aren't philosophical questions for chosen ones. They're survival questions. And in seeking those answers, you stumble into spiritual awakening. You start noticing synchronicities that can't be explained by coincidence. You feel connected to something vast and intelligent that's orchestrating events beyond your understanding. You realize that consciousness creates reality, not the other way around. These aren't beliefs you adopt. They're truths you experience directly through your suffering. Here's where it gets really interesting. That spiritual awakening doesn't just change how you see the world, it changes what you can manifest in it. As Neville Goddard taught, assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled. But you can't truly do that until you understand that you're not a victim of circumstances. You're the creator of them. Your dark past forced you to develop that understanding at a level most people never reach. You've learned that external reality is just a mirror of internal consciousness. You've discovered that you can't control what happens to you, but you can absolutely control what you make it mean and where you go from there. That's not positive thinking. That's spiritual mastery, and it's the foundation of everything that's about to unfold in your bright future. Stop trying to hide your scars. They're not weaknesses. They're proof of battles you've survived. And in a world full of untested people, that makes you dangerous in the best possible way. Think about this. When someone's going through hell and they need guidance, who are they going to trust more? Someone who's read about suffering in a book, or someone who's got the scars to prove they've been there and made it out? Your credibility, your authority, your ability to actually help people comes directly from your scars. Brené Brown built an entire empire on vulnerability research, and her core message is that our wounds, when shared authentically, create the deepest human connections. Your scars are your credentials for the mission ahead. Every scar tells a story, and stories are the most powerful force for change in human civilization. When you share your story of transformation, you're not just talking, you're giving hope to someone who's currently in the darkness you escaped from. You're showing them that survival is possible, that transformation is real, that the pain has a purpose. That's why chosen ones always have darker pasts than average people, because they're being equipped to reach people in the deepest, darkest places. A smooth, perfect life story inspires nobody because nobody can relate to perfection. But a story of falling, failing, suffering, and then rising. That's universal. That's what changes lives. Here's the practical application of this truth. Start owning your scars instead of hiding them. Not in a victim way, not in an feel sorry for me way, but in a this is what I've overcome, and this is what I learned way. If you struggled with addiction, that scar gives you the power to help others fighting the same battle. If you survived abuse, that scar equips you to guide others toward healing. If you lost everything and rebuilt, that scar proves to others that resurrection is possible. Louise Hay healed her own trauma and then built a publishing empire helping millions heal theirs. Your mess is literally becoming your message, and the darker the mess, the more powerful the message. Don't waste your scars by keeping them hidden. They're the very thing that's going to make your future bright. One of the most fundamental laws of the universe that chosen ones must understand is the law of polarity. And once you get this, everything about your dark past will make perfect sense. This law states that everything has an opposite, and these opposites are actually identical in nature, but different in degree. Hot and cold are the same thing. Temperature, just at different points on the scale. Love and hate are the same energy, just directed differently. And here's the key. You can't experience one pole without the potential for its opposite. The deeper your suffering, the greater your capacity for joy. The darker your past, the brighter your potential future. It's not metaphorical, it's literal universal law. Charles Haanel, who wrote The Master Key System, explained that understanding polarity gives you power over circumstances because you realize that every negative contains the seed of an equivalent positive. When you were going through your darkest times, you were simultaneously creating the potential for your brightest times. You just couldn't see it yet. Think of it like stretching a rubber band. The further you pull it back into darkness, the more potential energy you're building for it to snap forward into light. Your suffering wasn't meaningless. It was the universe pulling back the rubber band of your life, building up massive potential energy for the launch forward that's about to happen. This is why you'll notice that people with comfortable, easy pasts rarely achieve extraordinary things. They haven't built up that potential energy. They're living in the middle of the temperature scale. Never too hot, never too cold, just lukewarm their entire lives. But you've been to the freezing depths, and that means you have the capacity to reach the blazing heights. The universe doesn't make mistakes with this stuff. If you've experienced profound darkness, it's because you're being prepared for profound light. Not maybe, not hopefully, definitely. That's how polarity works, and you can't escape it any more than you can escape gravity. Your bright future isn't something you have to create from scratch. It's already encoded in the depths of your dark past. All right, let's talk about the biggest trap that keeps chosen ones stuck even after they've survived their dark past: victim mentality. And I'm going to be straight with you on this because sugarcoating it doesn't help anyone. Your past was real, your pain was valid, your suffering wasn't your fault, but staying stuck in that identity is a choice, and it's the one choice that'll guarantee your future stays just as dark as your past. Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about how your personality creates your personal reality. And if your entire personality is built around being a victim of your past, guess what reality you're going to keep creating? More victimhood, more suffering, more evidence that you're powerless. Breaking free from that mentality isn't about denying what happened, it's about refusing to let what happened define what's possible. Here's how victim mentality shows up, and be honest with yourself about whether you're doing any of this. Constantly bringing up your past traumas in conversations, using your suffering as an excuse for why you can't move forward, comparing your pain to others, like it's a competition you're trying to win, or waiting for someone to rescue you, validate you, or fix you. These patterns feel justified because your pain was real, but they're keeping you imprisoned in a story that should have ended chapters ago. Viktor Frankl survived Nazi concentration camps and wrote Man's Search for Meaning, where he said that the last of human freedoms is choosing one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. You can't change what happened, but you can absolutely change what it means and where you go from here. The shift from victim to victor isn't a one-time decision. It's a daily practice, sometimes a moment-by-moment practice. It's catching yourself when you start to blame your past for your present limitations and asking instead, what can I do right now with what I have? It's recognizing that your past gave you wisdom, strength, and depth that others don't have, and choosing to use those gifts rather than resent them. It's understanding that the universe didn't do something to you. It did something for you, even if it didn't feel that way at the time. This mindset shift is non-negotiable for chosen ones because your mission ahead requires you to operate from a place of power, not powerlessness. And trust me, once you make this shift, once you truly step out of victim mentality, that's when the real magic starts happening. The phoenix is one of the most powerful symbols in human mythology, and there's a reason it shows up in cultures all around the world. It represents the universal truth of transformation through destruction. The phoenix doesn't just get a little singed and fly away. It literally burns completely to ash, and from those ashes, it's reborn into something more magnificent than before. That's not just your story. That's your current reality. You're in the rebirth process right now, and understanding the stages of this process will help you navigate it without losing your mind. Because here's the thing, rebirth is messy, uncomfortable, and nothing like the pretty pictures you see on social media. The first stage of rebirth is the death of your old identity, and you've probably already been through this. It's when everything you thought you were, everything you believed about yourself and the world, gets completely destroyed. It feels like you're dying because, in a very real sense, you are. The old you is dying. The second stage is the void, the in-between space where you're not who you were, but you're not yet who you're becoming. This is the most uncomfortable stage because humans hate uncertainty, and this stage is nothing but uncertainty. You might feel lost, directionless, like you're floating in space with no anchor. That's normal. You're in the ashes right now. The third stage is the emergence, when the new you starts taking shape, when you start feeling glimpses of your power, your purpose, your potential. Here's what you need to understand. You can't rush this process, and you can't skip stages. Florence Scovel Shinn wrote, "Infinite Spirit, open the way for the great abundance of God to manifest, and that opening requires the death of the old to make space for the new." A lot of chosen ones get stuck in the void stage because they're trying to go back to who they were, or rushing to become someone new without fully releasing the past. But the transformation requires you to sit in the discomfort, to let the old identity fully burn away, to trust that something new is forming even when you can't see it yet. Your rebirth isn't happening to you, it's happening through you, and every stage is necessary. The phoenix doesn't come back as a slightly better version of itself. It comes back completely transformed, and so will you. There's a scientific reason why stars are brightest when viewed from the darkest places, and it's the perfect metaphor for your life, right now. When there's too much light pollution, too much brightness around you, you can't see the stars. They're still there, but they're obscured. It's only when everything goes dark, when all the artificial lights are stripped away, that you can see the true brilliance of the stars. Your dark past wasn't just random suffering. It was the universe removing all the light pollution from your life, so you could see your own brilliance, your own light, your own star quality that was always there but got obscured by everything else. Think about the people who shine the brightest in this world, the ones whose presence lights up a room, whose words change lives, whose energy is magnetic. Almost every single one of them has a story of profound darkness. It's not that darkness makes you special. It's that darkness strips away everything that was keeping you from your specialness. When you lose everything, when you go through hell, when you're forced to face yourself at your absolute worst, all the fake stuff falls away. The masks drop, the pretending stops, the people-pleasing ends, and what's left is your authentic self. And your authentic self, no matter how broken it felt during the dark times, is actually where all your power lives. Rhonda Byrne wrote in The Secret that You are the creator of your own reality. But she didn't emphasize enough that sometimes you have to experience the reality you didn't create consciously before you can start creating consciously. Your dark night was showing you what happens when you're not in conscious control, when you're living on autopilot, when you're letting circumstances control you. Now that you've seen that, now that you've lived through that, you have the contrast necessary to create something completely different. The brightest stars in the actual night sky are often the ones that burned the hottest and went through the most intense transformations. You're one of those stars, and your dark night was just the prelude to your brilliant dawn. Every single person walking this planet has a message they're meant to share. But most people's messages are boring because their lives have been boring. Not you. Your mess, that chaotic, painful, dark collection of experiences you've been carrying, is actually the most valuable thing you own, because it's the foundation of your message. And your message isn't just for you to feel better about yourself. It's for the thousands or maybe millions of people who are currently in the mess you escaped from and need to know that survival and transformation are possible. Robin Sharma said, "The purpose of life is a life of purpose, and your purpose is directly connected to your pain." Here's how this works in practical terms. Take your biggest struggle and flip it into your biggest teaching. Were you broke and homeless? Your message is about financial transformation and abundance manifestation. Did you survive abuse? Your message is about healing, boundaries, and reclaiming power. Were you addicted and hit rock bottom? Your message is about recovery, redemption, and breaking free from chains. The universe doesn't waste suffering. It uses it as curriculum. And once you've graduated from that curriculum, you become a teacher for others still in that class. Tony Robbins was a broke janitor with a weight problem before he became the world's most famous life coach. His mess became his message, and that message has touched millions. The transformation from mess to message requires vulnerability, and that scares most people because vulnerability means revealing the parts of yourself you've worked so hard to hide. But Brené Brown's research proves that vulnerability is actually where connection happens, where trust is built, where real influence is created. When you stand up and say, "This was my mess. This is what I learned. This is how I transformed," you're not weakening your position. You're strengthening it. You're becoming unshakable because you're no longer protecting an image or hiding behind a facade. You're showing up as your full, authentic, scarred, transformed self, and that authenticity is what makes your message powerful enough to change lives. Your mess is ready to become your message. The question is, are you ready to share it? Let me tell you something that might shift your entire perspective. Your dark past wasn't punishment, and it wasn't random. It was a testing ground. The universe needed to know if you were really ready for what's coming, if you could handle the power, the responsibility, the influence that's about to be placed in your hands. Think about it. Would you give nuclear codes to someone who's never been tested under pressure? Would you trust someone with millions of dollars if you didn't know how they handle adversity? The universe operates on the same principle. Before it gives you access to massive manifestation power, massive influence, massive success, it needs to see what you're made of. Your dark past was the exam, and the fact that you're still here, still standing, still reading this, that means you passed. Every spiritual tradition talks about this testing process. In Christianity, it's the refining fire. In Buddhism, it's the path through suffering to enlightenment. In indigenous traditions, it's the vision quest where you go into the wilderness to face yourself. The form changes, but the principle is universal. Transformation requires testing. And here's what most people miss. The severity of the test is proportional to the magnitude of your mission. Small missions get small tests. World-changing missions get world-shattering tests. If your past was darker than average, it's because your future is brighter than average. The universe doesn't over-test or under-test. It tests precisely to the level required for your specific mission. Napoleon Hill studied hundreds of successful people and found that every single one faced what he called temporary defeat that looked like permanent failure. Henry Ford went broke 5 times. Walt Disney was fired from a newspaper for lacking imagination. Oprah was told she was unfit for television. These weren't coincidences. They were tests to see if these people would give up or keep going, to see if they believed in their vision more than they believed in their circumstances. You've been through your version of these tests, and if you're still here, still holding on to hope, still believing there's something more, congratulations, you're passing. The testing isn't over, but you're proving every day that you can handle what's coming. Carl Jung revolutionized psychology when he introduced the concept of the shadow self, all the parts of you that you've rejected, suppressed, or hidden because they don't fit your ideal image of who you should be. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Your dark past brought you face to face with your shadow in ways that most people never experience. You've seen your capacity for anger, for selfishness, for destructiveness, for all the negative traits humans possess. Most people spend their entire lives running from their shadow, pretending it doesn't exist. But chosen ones don't get that luxury. Your darkness forced you to meet your shadow, and now you have a choice. Keep fighting it, or embrace it and integrate it. Embracing your shadow doesn't mean acting on destructive impulses or becoming a worse person. It means acknowledging that those aspects exist within you and learning to channel them constructively. Your anger can become righteous passion for justice. Your darkness can become depth and understanding for others in pain. Your capacity for destruction can become the power to destroy old patterns and systems that don't serve you. When you try to be all light and positivity, denying your shadow, you're only operating at half your power. But when you integrate both, when you accept that you contain both light and dark, both creation and destruction, both love and rage, that's when you become whole. And wholeness is where real power lives. Here's the practical application. Stop judging yourself for the dark thoughts you have, the negative emotions you feel, the parts of yourself you've deemed bad. These aren't flaws to be fixed. They're aspects to be understood and integrated. Debbie Ford wrote an entire book called The Dark Side of the Light Chasers about this exact process. When you embrace your shadow, you stop being controlled by it. The anger you were afraid of becomes fuel. The pain you were running from becomes wisdom. The darkness you rejected becomes the contrast that makes your light shine brighter. Your shadow isn't your enemy. It's the other half of your power. And chosen ones need all their power for what's ahead. Everything we've talked about up to this point culminates in this truth. Your dark past isn't just something to heal from or get over. It's rocket fuel for your bright future. And the darker the past, the more powerful the fuel. Think about actual rocket fuel for a second. It's volatile, dangerous, and destructive if not properly harnessed. But when it's channeled correctly, when it's used with precision and purpose, that same destructive force becomes the power that launches rockets into space. Your pain, your trauma, your suffering, all of that is volatile emotional and spiritual energy, and you've been learning how to harness it throughout this entire journey. Every morning you wake up now, you have a choice. Use your past as an anchor that keeps you stuck, or use it as fuel that propels you forward. The people who stay stuck are constantly looking backward, reliving the pain, telling the old story, keeping the wounds fresh. The chosen ones who transform look at the same past and extract different things, lessons, strength, wisdom, empathy, fire. They take every moment of suffering and ask, how does this make me more powerful? How can I use this? When someone tries to knock you down now, you've already been through worse. When obstacles appear, you've already overcome bigger ones. When fear tries to stop you, you've already faced darker fears. Your past isn't your limitation, it's your advantage. Here's something Neville Goddard taught that applies perfectly here. The present moment is pregnant with infinite possibilities. Your dark past happened, it's real, but it only determines your future if you let it. Right now, in this present moment, you can decide that every painful experience was training, every trauma was preparation, every dark night was building your capacity for brightness. And when you make that decision, when you consciously choose to use your past as fuel rather than letting it use you, that's when the real transformation begins. That's when your manifestation power kicks into high gear. That's when synchronicities start multiplying. That's when the bright future stops being a possibility and starts becoming your reality. We've reached the culmination of this message, and if you've made it this far, you're ready for the final awakening. The moment when you stop preparing, stop processing, stop healing, and actually step into the fullness of your power. This isn't about being perfect, having all your issues resolved, or waiting until you feel completely ready. News flash: you'll never feel completely ready. Stepping into your power is a decision you make despite the fear, despite the doubt, despite the voice in your head saying, "You're not qualified." Marianne Williamson wrote, "Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure." And that's the truth you're facing right now. Your power isn't something you need to develop or acquire. It's something you need to claim. It's already there, forged in the fires of your dark past, refined through your suffering, strengthened through your survival. The universe has been waiting for you to stop seeing yourself as a victim. Stop identifying with your pain and start recognizing yourself as what you truly are. A chosen one with a specific mission, equipped with specific gifts, assigned to reach specific people. Every experience you've lived through has been adding to your power, and now it's time to use it. Not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, not when circumstances are perfect. Now. Here's what stepping into your power actually looks like. It's speaking your truth, even when your voice shakes. It's sharing your story, even when you're afraid of judgment. It's pursuing your vision, even when everyone around you thinks you're crazy. It's setting boundaries with people who drain your energy. It's walking away from situations that don't serve your highest good. It's betting on yourself when nobody else will. It's understanding that your dark past doesn't disqualify you from a bright future. It qualifies you for it. As Esther Hicks, channeling Abraham, says, "You are the creator of your own reality, and the reality you're about to create is so bright it'll make your dark past look like it was all worth it." Because it was. Every single moment of it was preparing you for this. So stop waiting. Step into your power. Your bright future is already here. You just need to claim it.